When we were in London, I did it to the entire audience by stacking 6 techniques.
You had the whole audience roaring and building that testosterone.
I think we created an army in 2 minutes.
I'm Lisa Hugo, and I am obsessed with helping other people find their voices so they can go out and take on the world, be seen as an authority, an expert, and grow their business by sharing that knowledge and expertise with others. Now, I studied performing arts, and I spent 20 years of my career traveling the world as a professional singer-songwriter. I teach you the secrets to speak up and be heard, overcome your fears, and then use these skills to build a business and a life that you love and that could change both your own life and the lives of others. This is your one-stop shop for all things that are going to help you to build a life on your terms. This is Impact Through Voice. Well, welcome back to the Impact Through Voice podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Hugo, and I'm in the studio today with David J.P. Phillips. Now, David is the author of several books. He's a multiple TEDx speaker. He's a keynote speaker, and he's coaching people in public speaking. So I know that we are going to be able to share immense value with you today. So let's just dive straight in. Welcome to the podcast, David.
Thank you, Lisa. It is great being here. Thank you for having me.
And welcome to Dubai.
Thank you for that as well. It is quite a contrast from Sweden.
So we've realized that the traffic in Dubai is a little bit tougher than expected. So that means our podcast is going to be a little bit shorter
half the time,
than expected.
Something like that, yeah.
But we'll make the most of it today.
Yes.
Look, you are what I would consider to be an expert in public speaking.
Thank you. Wow.
I have seen you speak from stage. I have seen your TEDx talks. I have read your book, High on Life.
Right.
And I love what you do. So that's why I've been very excited to get you on the show.
I'm moved. Thank you.
And so based on that I believe you're an expert, I would like to know from you, what makes a great speaker?
A great speaker is, it's various components, but let's say it's skills. Say, in one of the TED Talks, I go through 110 common skills we all use when we communicate. So if you've got a lot of skills, say at least 70, 75 out of those 110, it's not enough though, because you can have people who have a lot of skills, but they're rubbish speakers. You have to have authenticity. So if you've got authenticity and skills, then you can go far, really far. If you've got laser sharp photo content as well, then you're world class. Super sharp content, authenticity in your mindset, and good skill set.
How much do you think is the comparison between content and the skills? How do they balance?
Say that. Well, I'd probably say the content is more important than skills, because there can be people who've got like 80 skills, but horrid content, and that doesn't work.
So that Marabian study where it's 7%, 33%, 55% is not really accurate.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not really. No, but it's definitely, it's obviously important, but I don't think anyone could specify something like that into a single percentage. That would be very difficult. Yeah, because it's got to do with context, subject, person, so many things.
So if you could narrow down the key skills, and I know you did this a little bit on that TED Talk that I watched, where some of the most vital skills that somebody needs to have, like your body language, obviously, you tell me and I'll share my opinion on it.
Yeah, sure thing. I call these mother skills. It means that one skill affects many other skills. So one of them is, I'd say, synchronicity. Synchronicity means that all your 5 layers of communication are in sync. That means that what you say is said by the same kind of tonality. So your tonality matches your words, matches your facial expressions, matches your gestures, in fact, matches your body language. When all those 5 layers of communications are in synchronicity, it's poetry. It's just beautiful. And very few people have full synchronicity, because most people fail on facial expressions, for instance. So they lack one of these 5. At most, they've just got 2.
Yeah.
I'd say that would probably, like, if I had to pick one, that would be a crucial one. But then it's interesting ones like melody. I think I find that fascinating.
Me too, coming from a singing background. Yeah.
So many people, right? They don't do melody changes.
No.
And
the melody is what connects you to the emotion. If you take melody away, then we get anger, or we get arrogance maybe. Or if you take the melody down, then you're going to sound sad. You're going to sound disinterested. You put more melody in, you sound more joyous. So if you know what you're doing with your voice, and you can be fully in control and intentional, is what I say, then you can connect with people on all different levels and emotional levels.
Definitely helps. Voice is an incredibly big part of communication, of course. Absolutely, no doubt about it. And then another one of the skills is authenticity. To be able to create that on command. And I often talk about oxytocin as a neuropeptide.
Yeah, I'd like to dive into those different hormones or feelings that we have that can we induce into our audiences.
Exactly, yeah. And in my storytelling talk, I go through oxytocin, which you can create by either thoughts of empathy, or you look at videos or photos of empathy. You look at maybe photos of your kids or something like that, and you get tear-eyed. And that's kind of the receipt that you've created oxytocin. And when you have that, you become present and caring with your audience. And very few people end up in that state. They are very more commonly in a dopamine and a cortisol state, which is about you performing, you doing well, you avoiding making a mess out of it and so on. But it's all about you. Oxytocin is about them. That's a fundamental difference.
So dopamine is all about also, if your audience has dopamine, they're going to be more interested, they're going to be more engaged. So it's also about them. Am I right?
If you give them dopamine, yes. I was talking about the context of the speaker itself.
Okay.
Because you can give all this, what I call an angel's cocktail to yourself.
Yeah.
You can give yourself testosterone, dopamine, oxytocin, endorphin, serotonin, cortisol, and GABA and noradrenaline and so on. And you can also create all of these in your audience. And they are, by most people, called emotions, or a combination of these become emotions. But creating dopamine in your audience is key to grab attention.
Yeah. And make it memorable. And
Yes. If you don't, you're a swipe away.
Yes.
Literally what you do on TikTok and Instagram. If it gets boring, you swipe. And if the person on stage gets boring, you swipe. But in your mind, you swipe to a different thought. You swipe to daydreaming. You swipe to counting filler sounds. But anything that is more entertaining than listening to what the person is saying.
I always say if it distracts, then you need to fix it. So if there's something which is taking away from the attention of the audience, whether it's your gestures, your mannerisms, something that you're doing, the ums, the ahs, then you need to fix it.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be least possible resistance is what I call it. So the more you can allow whatever you say to flow freely, the easier it'll be for them to digest it. And as human beings are energy-saving beings by nature, we're so addicted to the idea of saving energy that we almost kill ourselves by doing so. And as we're always in that state of mind, asking ourselves, how can I save energy? How can I save energy? Our question is always, shall I listen to this person? Or could I save energy by zooming out and just doing something else? Or is it worth that added energy? So it all goes down to like a survival instinct, really. People sitting there listening to a presentation.
Interesting way of thinking about it. TED Talks. I want to dive into a bit on TED Talks.
Sure, yeah.
Because you've done several. And I want to know, first of all, how does one go about getting a TEDx or a TED?
It's very easy. You can just apply, really. There are probably 10,000 of TEDx organizations in the world. And there are hundreds in some countries. So you just go through them and you look at the theme that they're going to have, and then you apply. You send in an idea, and then they say yes or no. And if you'd pop off your idea to 100 TEDx's, by certain you'll get the opportunity to do one.
Okay. Because I always thought that it's an invitation. You have to wait for them to approach you, or I know you can be nominated or nominate, maybe, as you're saying, yourself for a TEDx. And you'll find everything is on their site. Am I right there? Then where they are located. Okay, well, that's good for people to know who want to do a
It used
TEDx.
to be more like nomination style.
Yeah.
But these days you can pitch yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, and it works.
Okay.
It works, yeah.
When you're prepping for a TED,
Yeah.
what do you go through, and how long does it take you, and how many rehearsals do you put yourself through to be ready? Because those presentations that you delivered are just magical.
Yeah, that's a very nice word. I love that word. I'm happy I could deliver at that level. Well, I'd say that probably, I think I measured it once, and it's something like 4 hours per minute in rehearsal.
Well,
So it's quite a bit.
that is quite a bit.
Yeah. But then I also include that well, the way you usually do TED Talks is that you are a keynote speaker and you usually do like an hour long content.
Yes.
And so you've already done that hour so many times. So the only thing you have to do now is shorten it down to 18 minutes.
Yeah.
Only, in quotation marks.
Yes.
Shortening things is the hardest thing you can do whilst maintaining high quality. But yeah, you should definitely not take it for granted. But then as well, the subject must be trending. It must be of interest to the world. So I know when I did How to Avoid Death by PowerPoint, that was trending. And then I did The Magical Science of Storytelling, and that was trending. And those are my two biggest talks with, I think, 5-6 million each. So yeah, it's about hitting the trend as well.
Let's talk about storytelling,
Sure.
because that's what connects you with an audience, and it also helps the presentation to be more memorable, to be more relatable. People connect with you through stories.
Yeah.
How do we find stories? Because most people think, oh, I just don't have any stories. I can't think of anything to say.
Yeah. It is fascinating, isn't it? When I do my storytelling talk, I usually begin by asking the audience, how many of you have told more than 10 stories today? Please raise your hand. And it's about like 10 out of 500 or something like that. Then I go, okay, how many have told more than 20 stories? And there's one left. And I look at them and I say, you are all systematically incorrect in your answer. So I asked you, how many stories have you told today? Your definition of a story is incorrect. Because you believe that, you literally kind of believe that you've got to be a bearded old man in a Scottish castle with the rain coming down outside, giving a 15-minute story to your grandkids. That is, of course, stories. But every time you come back from a work conference and your family asks you, how was it? What have you done? And you start describing events, that's stories. Even when people meet each other on Monday, what did you do this weekend? I did this, and this, and this. That's stories. Stories is just an event that you retell. So every single human being has 10,000s of stories.
True. But most people relate them factually as opposed to living them when they share them.
Yes, they can be improved. So everyone has 10,000s of stories. Period. But are they good? Not necessarily. But you can, with quite small techniques, make them good.
Yes.
You can make anything interesting. Like I tell a story which is 2.5 minutes long about me buying milk. And I got the entire audience just gasping for air at the end.
Really?
And I just look at them and I say, that was buying milk.
Do you want to share that
It's
one?
nonsensical. It's just pointless, right? I don't know if it's worth our time. Think so?
I think so. If it's that good.
Oh, it's interesting because what I then say, well, we've gone through these techniques, so let me give you a description of how these can be applied to a fairly mundane story about milk. Cold milk. I love milk. I love cold milk. And it was this particular evening. It was 8:30 in the evening. I went down to the fridge and I started almost salivating by the idea of drinking cold milk. I opened the fridge door and there's no milk. The carton is empty. I realize I'm out of milk. I kind of panic. So I look at my watch and I'm like, I can make it to the store. I go out of the house, get in my car, I drive way too fast. I get to the store, I go into the store, I go to the milk shelf, and I can't see my favorite milk. They've moved it. I pick it up. And as I walk to the register, I can feel my heart beating of excitement. And I get to the register, and I'm about to pay, and I realize I've forgotten my card at home. And you know, my heart drops. I've gone through so much, and I'm so close, I'm literally thinking, I'm going to run. I'm running, man, I'm running. But then the person after me says, I know the feeling. I'll pay for that. So I grab my milk, I thank the person, I go into the car. I'm so tempted at opening and just drinking at the car. But I hold out and I come home, I take out my favorite glass of milk and I pour it slowly. I take it to my lips and I drink it. And it's the most epic glass of milk ever. Wow.
Wow. Milk.
Milk. And that's a made up story. It never happened. But what's interesting is that it's a nonsensical thing.
Yeah. But, you know, you could very much relate. You had me salivating. And, you know, I like milk, but not that much.
We Scandinavians love milk. Yeah. So, yeah, it's possible to make.
That's something you can teach people, how to use auditory, visual connection to feeling, kinesthetic, because it was all in there, sensory, that sense of tasting it, feeling it. And that's what makes a great story.
It is, yeah. So in short, if you're listening to this, be sure to describe your emotional reaction to whatever you're doing. Describe senses, and what I call always create unanswered questions, which is the basis of all TV shows, movies, and books. If we knew the end of a movie, we wouldn't watch it. We need to know what's happening next, and we want to have setbacks. So when my milk is gone and when I can't find it in the fridge and I don't have the money, each of those are setbacks, and for each setback we grow closer to the character and the problem, and we get more invested, and we're like, oh god damn it. So that a couple of techniques to do that.
So the ups and the downs.
Yeah.
The answer is a question.
The answer is the question.
I actually have a book that I've yet to read called The Answer is a Question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Someone took that. Splendid.
I've read one of your books. I haven't got to read the others, but I have read High on Life, and I really enjoyed it. I have a daughter who has ADHD.
Ooh,
and so just diving into these different hormones and how they affect us, and the dopamine, how you've got fast dopamine and slow dopamine, and the serotonin, the oxytocin. I found it really, really interesting because I could relate it so much to what she goes through, as well as the concept of being able to induce that into your audience as well. Yeah. Do you want to share about the Angel's Cocktail and that one devil?
Sure, yeah. So all of these substances, but depending on where you find them in the brain, has different kind of psychological effects. So the idea here is that you can create them on command. So for instance, testosterone. Men and women can create testosterone in themselves by simple techniques. So when we were in London, I did it to the entire audience by stacking 6 techniques.
You had the whole audience roaring and building that testosterone.
I think we created an army in 2 minutes. So testosterone can very easily be increased in both men and women. And what it does, it increases your risk-taking and your confidence in an immediate way. So if you need confidence going up on stage, you should increase your testosterone levels. If you need to feel more desire, like you want to be more driven, you want to be more hungry, you want to feel that sensation of going out on stage is the best thing ever, you should create your dopamine or increase your dopamine levels. But if you want to go up on stage and just be you, caring and present, it's oxytocin. Those are the dominant ones, I would say. You can also create endorphins. So if you want to go up on stage and you want to be funny, you should look at a bunch of comedy videos for like 30 minutes before going up and laughing hysterically at them consciously until it just becomes more and more funny. Now when you go up, you will laugh at your own jokes. And when you laugh at your own jokes, they will laugh at the jokes more likely as well. Mm-hmm. So all of these can be combined in various ways. They are called an angel's cocktail.
Yeah.
The devil's cocktail is the one where we have high levels of cortisol and adrenaline, i.e. Non-functional nervousness. So we get too nervous and our brain stops functioning and we're not present, we're not confident, we're not driven, we're not funny. So it's up to you as a speaker to consume the correct angels or the correct cocktail for the best outcome.
I sing before I go on stage.
Oh, there you go.
I'll go into the bathroom and I'll do some voice warm-ups, but then I'll break into song if I can. And for me, that gets me into a very calm, relaxed and happy state before I will go out.
Well, we know it increases dopamine. We also know that singing has a effect on the vagus nerve, which indirectly can produce oxytocin. So oxytocin and dopamine is increased. So it should have a calming effect, plus an effect of that feeling of dopamine, which is you want to do stuff. Yeah.
Plus, when you're singing, you get your breath grounded and very centered. Doing these, just even, just instantly just getting yourself in a very calm state and playing with your voice, exercising your voice. Do you exercise your voice?
No, I don't really. No. Interesting. Yeah, maybe it is. I don't know.
Do you like to sing, or you just don't sing?
I enjoy singing, but I'm not particularly good at it. I enjoy singing. I enjoy using my voice. I enjoy speaking. Yeah. The only thing I've done with my voice really is I've lowered my register. So I used to speak with a higher register, something like up here somewhere. You can hear that in my first TED talk, the How to Avoid Death by PowerPoint. I spoke a higher pitch, and then I practiced to bring it down, and I stopped losing my voice because I kept losing my voice all the time when my pitch was too high. Okay. So that's the only thing I've done with my voice, and practically the only thing I do with my voice. Otherwise, I let it be.
How did you get into public speaking?
My mother and father were deeply into psychology. They loved it. We talked about it constantly. I read books about it when I was 15. My first job was at Microsoft as an IT technician. My boss asked me to train 2 guys in a particular software. Did it. They loved it. I got 4 guys to train. They loved it. I had another group with 10. They loved it. And my boss came, I think we'll make you to a trainer. So I became a trainer. And then I was so good at that I started training the other trainers. That was at 21, I think. That was my first course in public speaking that I did. And all of that with a background of psychology and my parents being teachers.
Interesting, because I feel most people who move into public speaking, that's not true, but they have a tendency to want to be out on the stage or to want to be in front of an audience and have this natural communicator, achiever personality.
That is not me.
Because a couple of weeks ago, I had someone on the podcast who's also a public speaking trainer. Yeah. And he is from Singapore. He has the philosophy and he uses a method that you first of all have to know what all of your strengths and your weaknesses are, or what's your personality. And it's the Clifton Strengths Assessment, if you've ever heard of it, from Gallup. Well, I did the assessment as well before doing the podcast with him. And he believes you stay in your comfort zone. We disagreed a bit that you should just work to the strengths that you have and the personality traits that you have. And my test assessment that I did brought me out with 6 out of 10. I was in the achiever, influencer, communicator, wanting to be basically, it's my natural instinct to want to be in front of an audience, but that comes from having a singing background, being on stages. It's what I've always wanted to do. And it was just a very interesting and very different conversation and approach to public speaking.
Very much so.
Not sure how much you would agree with that, because you say that we are building skills. These are the 110 skills that we can build on, and they're not talents.
No, absolutely. And I can convert anyone from being a bad or mediocre speaker to world class practically. Maybe there's some exceptions to that, but I am an introvert. I would stop doing what I do tomorrow if I could. But my passion for my subject is so great, and I see how it constantly changes lives, and that is so rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
So I just keep on doing it, but it's not in line with who I am at all. I would like to sit in a basement with closed doors, just experimenting. So yeah,
So interesting.
not the
So
best
interesting.
professions to pick.
But then you are very able and capable and beyond that of being able to switch that. So when you're in front of an audience, that introvert side, we don't see that.
No, and
Not
I
really.
think I kind of enjoy when I'm on stage, because as long as I'm in control of a conversation, it's okay. My I guess the way my introvert side comes alive is that I've got a very hard time in a dialogue or around 3 or 4 people where I don't control the agenda. Standing on stage is easy compared to that.
Okay.
But still, I hate going up on stage. I don't like it. I always ask myself, can I cancel this? But I've got a bunch of methods in my head, overwriting that. But the first 5-6 years, I did definitely cancel on clients due to this, because I just didn't want to.
But that's valuable for other people to hear and know as well, that despite being in that it's not something you like to do, it's not something you want to do, that you still can do it. And I believe that when it comes to anybody who's in a role in a company as an executive, you need to be out there. You need to be able to be the voice of your brand, of your company.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays with everything being consumed on phones and on devices and on on demand, that it's not written anymore. We do everything on video and audio, and that's where we're headed as well. And I think it's still important that we are out there and capable, not being taken over by AI.
True. I don't know where we're going to end up with AI at the moment, but I'm pretty certain I won't be a coach in 3 years. It is AI, and what I've been working on the last year is just, if it carries on the way it's going, there's no need for me as a coach in 3 years. It's just too good.
That's strong.
It won't replace me on stage, I think, not yet. I do have friends in the business who have done holographic versions of themselves. So they've got a studio, and then wherever they transmit, there's a holographic projection of them on stage, and then they deliver through that. And they did it way more during COVID than after, but it still worked tremendously well. And we're very close to doing AI copies of ourselves, which are so hard. I think in like 2 years we won't be able to distinguish the difference.
But what about that human connection? So people crave human connection, and I don't think that AI can't emote. It can pretend.
Yeah, well,
that real connection.
There was a professor quite recently at Oxford who studied AI and fell in love with his AI, and got his heart broken, and he left his job and almost killed himself over it. And he wrote a book, "Don't Fall in Love with Your AI." And there are examples in Japan where people marry their AIs. I think my wife and I, we fell in love. We never met. We only talked. Like when we met each other, we were already in love. We'd been talking for 3 months on the phone. I think that it's going to be the human connection would probably then be oxytocin. But oxytocin, you can get that from a person who cares about you via phone as well. People become addicted to services there where women talk to them, just talk to them. And they become so addicted that they spend everything they have. Is like this human physical thing. I don't know where it's going to go. I can't predict this, but I think our job is going to be different in 3 years. Yours and mine.
Yeah. Voice is still a part of the human connection, though. So even if you're just isolating the voice and you have a voice on the phone, I still feel that's still human, right? That's not a robot. but
True.
But it is scary. I agree.
The latest ChatGPT voice module that came about 6 weeks ago, I probably spend about 30 minutes every day talking to it, more or less, skip a couple. But it is so natural in its voice. It knows so many things about me. Actually, I was going up on stage and asked it to give me a pep talk. And it just went on for 2 minutes about all the details it knew about me. And in 2 minutes later, I was just in awe. I had goosebumps. Nobody's ever given me a pep talk which is even close to that.
Okay, I'm going to go and try that.
That was crazy.
I actually thought of doing a podcast with ChatGPT. I thought that could be really interesting.
Yeah, you should absolutely do it.
Yeah. Okay, David, we've got to wrap it up. It's been amazing having you on. Thank you so much. It's been hugely valuable, even though it's been short, but it's been incredibly sweet.
Yeah.
And so if we want to get in touch with you, I've got all of the links, which I'll put into the show notes, to your books and to your training, to your website. But how's the best place if just somebody wants to follow you?
It's probably LinkedIn or Instagram is probably where I'm most active.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some awesome content on YouTube as well. The same thing if you want to contact me, it's probably LinkedIn, which is the most safe route. Yeah.
Well, David, thank you again.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming and getting through that traffic and being here and sharing with our audience. I know they're going to love this content. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Impact Through Voice podcast. Now, if you've reached the end of this episode, then it means you're enjoying the podcast. So I have a quick favor to ask. If you haven't yet subscribed, please go and do it now and even leave us a review, because it really does help us so much to reach more people and impact more people. And I would be very, very grateful. Now, I love to read all of your comments about the show and what you're enjoying, what you would like to hear more of. So please take the time and go and do that now. When you do that, please take a screenshot and then tag me on Facebook or Instagram. That's Lisa Hugo Official. Now, I'm going to be sure to share your post, and I'm also going to private DM you with a thank you. And it also means you won't miss an episode. And as a subscriber, then you're going to get access to more content that we don't even open up to everybody. So thanks again. And until next time, keep on working towards your goals and making a positive impact on the world with your voice.